Hi, my dearest family. Let's have a look at the very first week of June and how it might be playing out in our lives. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you will enjoy this video. These videos are intended to help you with the narratives of the week. If you are aware of the aspects, what it can help you with is that you can consciously change your decision-making process according to the energy. Now, if you have been feeling an incredible tension between your daily workload and the secret private need to retreat, you are not really alone. This week is absolute cosmic crossroads. The energy is moving from a place of stubborn friction regarding your commitments through a lightning bolt of intuitive realignment to a fierce reclamation of your inner sanctuary. So we are breaking down every major aspect and showing you exactly how to navigate this transformative storm, really. The big headline this week is about shedding old, dependent patterns and owning your absolute sovereignty. We are witnessing asteroid Lilith entering Gemini and Mercury squaring Vesta, a powerful combined force that is challenging you to protect your focus and speak your raw, uncompromised truth. So let's prepare you for the changes. Here is the day-by-day map. On June 1st, our first stop, which is Monday, we are kicking off the energy patterns with a bit of a friction. Well, Mars, which is in the sign of Taurus, having a square with Juno in the sign of Aquarius. Now, this might be showing certain type of commitment issues. This might be talking to us about having certain type of fights, for example, within a partnership, because asteroid Juno represents commitment. Mars in Taurus is about stubborn actions, slow burning anger, digging in your heels, financial or material control. And Juno, which represents marriage, contract, business partnerships, but also infidelity as well, or it might show where we compromise on to keep the peace. So it's a square, which is a friction. It's forcing a choice between getting your way or honoring kind of like an obligation. So this is where we have Mars in Taurus, the planet of drive, confrontation, and personal desire, clashes with the asteroid of commitment and partnership contracts. So we see an immediate tug of war between what you want individually versus what your relationships or agreements demand from you. Because Mars is in Taurus, this isn't a quick flesh argument. This is a stubborn energy. Taurus doesn't want to budge, and it usually relates to money, values, ownership, or comfort, or even something to do with how much I receive and give within a partnership. You might find yourself or someone else digging their heels in, refusing to compromise on a practical or financial matter. So I can imagine, because it's not just about romantic connections, it could be a business or a personal partnership, really. And maybe you guys are trying to make a decision, but both of you are completely locked into your own positions. One person wants to spend or build a certain way, while the other fears the fundamental agreement or fairness of the partnership is being ignored. So there's a lack of equality. Then I can also imagine where one breaks the rules. Juno represents the boundaries we accept to stay committed. For example, Juno never wanted Zeus to cheat on her, but Zeus did. So with Mars squaring it, you might feel a frustrating urge to push back against a contract, a joint responsibility, or a promise you made simply because it feels like it's blocking your independence. Aquarius represents independence. And Mars in Taurus operates slowly. It's like a slow burner. It's like the anger is building up, and then it can explode. So instead of an open explosion, This square can manifest as kind of like silent treatment, stubborn resistance. I'm exactly doing the opposite what others want me to do, or deliberate delays in finalizing an agreement because someone feels their personal needs aren't being met. So if you feel the tension building around June 1st, recognize that digging your heels in deeper will only crack the foundation of that commitment. Now, of course, this could also show up as in, let's say I've got a partner and we are having financial disagreements. One might be spending the money while the other one doesn't. Or imagine that one wants to go out with the friends while Taurus is kind of like craving for a bit of a sensuality, a bit of a togetherness. The trap here is thinking you can force a practical outcome through willpower. Instead, use this friction to look at where your personal desires are genuinely out of alignment with the promises you have made. I mean, think of Aquarius as also our peers as well as, for example, our friends. So this is highly possible that a friend of yours is making a commitment without inviting you or without honoring your personal boundaries. Or you are making promises, but is it realistic? So a square is often about a step-by-step adjustment that needs to happen. So on the next day, 2nd of June, we've got a stabilizing energy coming up. Sun is in the sign of Gemini, sextiling Saturn in the sign of Aries. Now, Sun in Gemini is about curiosity. There's a spotlight on our communication, a lot of brainstorming happening, having multiple ideas at once, typically about the future. While Saturn in Aries says we need the discipline drive. We need to take personal accountability. We need to focus on the execution. Now, it's a sextile. It's an opening sextile. So it talks to us about opportunities. It's kind of like a smooth pathway to turn those fast-moving thoughts into really structured plans. Now, both Aries and Gemini are super quick signs. This is where Saturn comes into the picture, who is trying to slow us down and making sure that we have got a plan and then we are not just going to rush forward to get something done because then we might screw up. So the energy shifts into a much more constructive, stabilizing groove. We have got that Sun in Gemini forming that supportive sextile to Saturn in Aries. Now, normally the Gemini Sun wants to flit around from one idea to the next, gathering information, but maybe scattering its energy. But Saturn says it's like a strict project manager. Aries brings the urge to launch and take action, but Saturn brings the discipline. So when these two click via a sextile, it creates a perfect window of opportunity to take your scattered ideas, your mental to-do lists, or your latest brainstorms and actually build a practical framework for them. So I can imagine that you have been overwhelmed by too many options or directions, let's say in your business, Gemini, or daily life. And today is the day you sit down and then map out a concrete checklist. The mental chatter can slow down as well with this. The voices that we hear in our heads. Okay, out of these 10 ideas, how to distinguish them, how to execute one so I can move on to the next one. This could also talk to us about really productive, kind of serious conversations. Gemini loves to talk and Saturn keeps things real and grounded. So therefore it's an excellent day to sign contracts, negotiating terms, having serious clarifying discussions with clients, editors, collaborators, siblings, neighbors, even partners as well. Or you might want to be kind of like doing a bit of a sales pitch. You want to be expressing complex ideas clearly, and people will respect your authority and structure for it. But maybe you have got a presentation to write, an educational video to plan or to shoot, or you have got a book chapter to finish. This aspect gives you that mental stamina to sit in the chair and get that work done without getting distracted by social media, scrolling on the phone, left or right, new tabs and all those type of stuff. So the key with the sextile is that, it doesn't force you to act, it just opens the door. So you have to step through it. June 2nd is not a day to just sit around thinking about what you could do. Use this supportive energy to commit to one primary task, establish a clear routine, and lay down a solid foundation for your ideas. On the 3rd of June, we have got a bit of a busier day. We've got two aspects going on. First one is Mercury trine North Node. So Mercury is going through Cancer, which is often about thinking with the heart. It's emotional intelligence. It's about going down on a memory lane, speaking from the heart, speaking from the gut instincts. Now, North Node in Pisces is our collective path forward, letting go of rigid control, trusting the flow, trusting that the universe has got my back. It's spiritual and creative growth. It's about learning the secret of forgiveness. Of course, if Mercury is in trine with North Node, it means that it is in sextile to the South Node as well. So the South Node in Virgo says that we have to move away from overanalyzing, micromanaging every single detail, the perfectionism paralysis, or trying to fix people up. So it feels like that there is this cosmic conversation going on that is coming from a very intuitive side of yours. Mercury rules how we think and communicate. So in Cancer, our minds are guided by emotions, gut feelings, the desire for emotional security. So when it connects to the nodes of destiny, your everyday thoughts and conversations line up directly with your higher path. You might be talking about the future. You might be talking about the past too much, and you're going to have to be able to find the balance in between. This aspect is telling you to stop trying to intellectually force things to make sense and instead listen to what our intuition is kind of like shouting at us. Maybe those intuitive thoughts are coming through sleep or when you are alone at home. You might be watching a telly while sitting on the sofa and stuff like that. And that's brilliant. So let that imagination kick in. I would say that usually we get stuck in the South Node trap, trying to organize things. For example, at home, Cancer represents our home environment, our family. We're trying to fix every single tiny flaw before we move forward. If there is a bit of a tension happening within the family, then we are just trying to kind of like calm the waters down. But around June 3rd, you might have a breakthrough moment where you realize that obsessing over those micro details is just keeping you stuck. So you might find the willingness to say, you know what, I don't have all the data, but this feels right. So I'm moving forward. I think this is a beautiful day for interactions that heal or realign a situation. Because Cancer is deeply personal and Pisces is very compassionate. So you can really speak your truth from a place of genuine vulnerability. Again, if you need to pitch an idea to your family members, maybe resolve a misunderstanding or connect deeply with your even audience, speaking from the heart will open doors that logic alone cannot. Pay close attention to your dreams and random flashes of insight or sudden ideas that hit you while doing everyday tasks. The trine acts like a direct pipeline from the collective subconscious, that's the North Node in Pisces. An answer to a problem you have been stressing over might suddenly appear. But it is something that bypassing your logical mind. So I think the takeaway from June 3rd from this aspect is very simple. Trust your first instinct. If an agreement, a plan, a conversation feel emotionally draining or kind of you sense a bit of a BS or it looks overly restrictive, that's your Virgo South Node warning you. If it brings a sense of relief, peace, or creative excitement, that is the Pisces North Node pulling you forward. Somehow, this is telling me to step out of my head and then kind of stepping into your gut, basically. Now, on the same day, we have got Ceres and Uranus conjunction happening in the sign of Gemini. Ceres represents nurturing, caretaking, mother-child dynamics, the cycle of grief and harvest, but also represents depression and food intake as well. I often see actually series with people, prominent series with people who have got food sensitivities. Now, of course, Uranus in Gemini, like Uranus in Gemini is kind of, flooding from the pipeline as well, because everyone is talking about Uranus recently, right? But it's about radical awakening, shocking information, sudden separation, breaking free from traditional mindsets. So, this is a very fascinating combination, really. Now, remember, Uranus just recently made its major shift into Gemini, shaking up our minds and communication and local networks. So, when Ceres, the asteroid that represents nurturing the food supply, caretaking, what makes us feel safe, meets Uranus, the planet of disruptions, it creates that massive wake-up call regarding our comfort zones and dependencies. Oh yeah, a very important meaning to series is our attachment styles. So what am I attached to? What do I need to liberate myself from? And of course, that's certain type of communication patterns in the sign of Gemini, or I might want to liberate myself from the phone for a day or two, switching off my mind, kind of like resetting the mindset. So the shakeup happens directly through information, local systems, schedules, how we communicate our needs. It's a sudden shift in how we take care of ourselves and others and how we feed our mind as well, and maybe forcing us to break free from outdated codependent habits. But on top of that, this could actually affect our nervous system as well, especially when you are single or when you feel lonely. Then this could be kind of switching on that fear of, oh, am I going to die alone type of feelings. You can start missing people in your life as well. But maybe this is about rewiring something in the caretaking role. So maybe you experience shifts in your relationship where you are either the caretaker or the one being taken care of. Maybe a child demands sudden independence, or you might realize a caretaking agreement is completely draining your mental freedom. Uranus demands liberation. So any dynamic where nurturing has turned into a cage, it feels like that it is forcing us a healthier boundary. So therefore, we want to walk out of that cage. But Ceres rules our literal food and how you get nourished, like physically. So in Gemini, it connects our daily logistics. You might suddenly throw out your old meal plans, or you might even see disruptions, for example, in your local food supply, or you see that the grocery shop has increased the prices, double the prices. So you start reinventing your daily routines, your eating habits. Maybe you just decide that, yes, I'm going to be, you can have that flash of idea that I'm going to be changing the way I eat. So I'm going to be vegetarian. I'm going to cut bread out of my diet. With cereals is typically something to do with grains. So seeds, grains, and so forth. And I also can imagine, because it happens in Gemini, a piece of news, an email, or a conversation could arrive out of nowhere, forcing you to completely rethink how you protect your assets or how you provide for your family. You know, Somehow this aspect tells us that we need to stay mentally agile rather than panicking when plans change at the last second. It's a mutable energy, so open-mindedness is always a key to mutable people. So I think the lesson of June 3rd is that old ways of comforting yourself or keeping the peace simply won't work anymore. If a routine, a diet, or a caretaking dynamic gets disrupted today, don't try to force it back into the old box. You know, Uranus is trying to upgrade something in your life. So look for the innovative, modern, or unconventional solutions to protect and to nourish your daily life moving forward. I also often see with Ceres, it's a suffocating mom archetype as well. And the child might want to kind of cut the cords, liberating from that suffocation. So you might even see that your teens, for example, are a little bit more on the rebellious side today. Now, on the 4th, and then now I'm just going to go on pages, we have got Bacchus entering the sign of Leo. Bacchus, if you have been listening to my videos, you know that I do love a bit of a Bacchus for me. Bacchus astrological number is 2063. Bacchus represents celebration, but let me just firstly tell you how long Bacchus is going to be in the sign of Leo. Well, Bacchus spends approximately about 4 weeks. So it's a faster moving type of energy. Bacchus will be moving into the sign of Virgo on 29th of June. And Bacchus is like the ecstasy. It's indulgence, it's sensory pleasure, celebration, letting loose. So therefore, it loves spending a bit of time in the sign of Leo. And in the sign of Leo, it represents grand gestures, chasing natural highs, prioritizing fun. It is about wanting to feel alive, wanting to be surrounded by kind of like heartwarming people as well. So it feels like it's a massive injection of fun, but it could be drama as well. Obviously, Bacchus spent a bit of time in the emotional waters of Cancer. So it was drowning a little bit in the sign of Cancer, really, because it couldn't have as much fun as it would have liked to, right? Because maybe it had to be spending time together with friends and family and stuff like, or especially family. But when Bacchus celebrates, it's wild, like it's pure sensory pleasure. It's about finding the joy in life as well. So that's why it loves spending time in the sign of Leo. But often it's about how we want to escape reality and just enjoy being alive. Leo loves attention, romance. It has got a theatrical side to it. So we are moving away from that quiet, cozy comfort at home and stepping directly onto that main stage. It's like I'm going to a karaoke bar. We are going to be having a couple of glasses of champagne or wine and stuff like that. And I'm spending great time together with my friends, and I'm gonna grab the mic because I become more brave as well. So, because Leo loves to party, you know, and Bacchus loves to indulge. So, over the next 4 weeks, just expect your social calendar to demand a bit of a higher energy because you are craving grand nights out, live entertainment, concerts, hosting gatherings where everyone gets dressed up. For example, it's like a white party or I don't know, a certain type of themes to the party. Now, Leo is very romantic too. So, in the realm of dating and relationships, Bacchus in Leo is a bit of an intoxicating passion. Like I want to be courted with grand gestures. I want public displays of affection. I want to go on a thrilling romantic date. The trap here is chasing the highs of romance or the drama without looking at the actual substance underneath, can really break the ideas around that relationship, right? Or Leo is very artsy as well. So if you're a content creator, a performer, This is the moment to indulge your wildest creative impulses, really. Because what Bacchus tries to do here is it tries to remove the inhibition of self-doubt that keeps your work small. So, yes, then the other negative side could be is that we just want to be buying luxurious items. We go through this bold wardrobe upgrade, or we are ending up buying some high-end tools for creative projects because somehow you are super inspired. You feel super powerful as well. I think you have to give yourself permission to play, especially like the working signs like Capricorn, Virgo. Somehow it reminds you that life isn't just about obligations, rules, and daily grinds. However, because Bacchus knows no limit and Leo loves to overdo things for the applause, watch out for overindulgence, burning through your budget on luxury items and creating unnecessary drama just to feel the spark. Enjoy the spotlight, toast to your success, but keep one foot anchored, on the ground. Now, on the 5th, oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong page here because we came back. So on the 5th, we have got Ceres in Gemini squaring the nodes. So we have spoken about both the nodes and Ceres as already. But it means that the story is evolving here, right? The story that started earlier in the week actually reaches a critical crossroads. Um, when a planet or asteroid squares the nodes, it creates what we call as a skipped step or kind of like a crisis point. So I've already spoken about what Ceres represents, but it's how we nurture ourselves, our parental dynamics, our baseline security. So, how do I want to handle stress, right? I'm going to handle stress by gathering more information, talking it out, keeping ourselves mentally busy. But the square to the notes is a friction. So you are forced to choose between falling back into that anxious micromanagement or stepping forward into deeper trust and kind of like emotional surrender. So I think you might be dealing with a stressful situation regarding health, family, or basic security, whatever that is. But the Gemini series response is to spend hours Googling answers, reading forums, collecting data. And what does that trigger? It triggers your Virgo South node, because leaving you feel anxious and paralyzed by the details. Because I don't know which one to choose. I read too many good things. So this square forces you to hit the brakes and realize that more information isn't comforting you. It's actually draining you. It's making you even more like confused. So the North Node in Pisces demands that you step back and then look at the bigger picture or trust your gut feelings. Maybe it's a situation where a family member, a child, a close friend needs support. That's also a very serious topic. And maybe you are trying to solve the problem by lecturing them, analyzing their issue, offering logical fixes. However, the North Node says that what they actually need is just emotional presence, a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on, and empathy, not spreadsheets or a debate or kind of like the lecturing part. Or I can also imagine that you have got some like daily schedule, some type of business agreement, and then it hits a wall where the numbers just don't add up or the timing gets kind of jammed. And you cannot fix this through kind of, sheer mental gymnastics. It kind of shows me that the universe is intentionally creating a roadblock to see if you will spiral in back into that control freak mode, or if you will have the courage to say, you know what, I'm doing my practical best, but I have to trust the timing of the universe as well. I think. This aspect is talking to us about an emotional or spiritual problem. And Ceres in Gemini is like analyzing the harvest. Um, but the notes tells us that some things just need time to grow in the dark. So if you catch yourself overthinking, micromanaging, talking yourself in circles today, just try to stop, please. Take a deep breath and think of that Pisces North Node and choose emotional honesty and trust over your mental control. Now, on the same day, Juno goes stationary retrograde. This is something that I'm not going to be talking to you about today because I've made a video about it last year and I'm going to be making a separate one as well. So please make sure that you subscribe and hit the like buttons and all those type of stuff or ring the notification bell so that you don't miss that video. And talking about just a bit of an advertisement, I have just launched my fourth house booklet. If you are interested in how family and stuff like that might be playing out in your life according to astrology, this book is going to really break it down for you over 120 pages and showing you your family patterns. So planets in the fourth house aspect to the fourth house ruler. I talk about asteroids as well. It's more of a practical guide. So I hope you will like it. You can find it on my website, AstroViktor.com. But, so like I said, I'm not going to be talking to you about Juno as much, but I think it's an important retrogression due to the fact that Juno is going to be bumping into Pluto 3 times. On the same day, Persephone is entering the sign of Taurus. So let's just find Persephone. Persephone's astrological number is 399. Now, potentially you have heard a lot about Persephone, at least from me as well before. Persephone, by the way, moves approximately about 2-3 degrees a day. So it means that it tends to be spending approximately about 3 months in each sign. But this time around, Persephone is going to be spending a lot more. The reason being is because Persephone is going to go retrograde around 14th of September on 18 degree of Taurus. And then Persephone is going to go backwards for a little while. It's going to be stopping its retrogression on 4 degree of Taurus around 1st of January. And then it's going to move forwards. And then finally, it's going to be leaving the sign of Taurus on the 17th of April. So as you can see, this is a longer period of time. Now, Persephone is the archetype of innocence lost, psychological transformation, navigating kind of like the shadow part of life, and the dual custody of one's life. So I think it's a very deep psychological landscape that this asteroid is going to create here. Um, Persephone represents the journey of coming into your own power after a period of helplessness. And it's a transitioning type of asteroid. It's a psychologically intense asteroid. She represents the part of us that has to navigate the underworld, but eventually learns how to rule it. And because Persephone is going to go retrograde here, what does it mean? We're going to have to be reviewing quite a lot our Taurus part of the chart because something is not working there properly. So, of course, Persephone entering the sign of Taurus, the focus shifts entirely to physical and material autonomy. It's no longer about just talking about your boundaries or analyzing your anxieties. It is about anchoring your power into that real world. So this transit marks a period where we seek empowerment through financial independence, physical well-being, and creating a life that feels completely safe and self-sustained. We only have got one planet currently in the sign of Taurus, and that's Mars. But they are not going to be meeting though. But the fact that they co-witness each other is that Mars is sometimes a bit heavy, or not heavy, but irrational. Even in the sign of Taurus, we can be so stubborn to go after something that we think it's right. And Persephone going retrograde here, it means that some of our projects are going to go through a rebirth. But maybe it's about you having been going through a chaotic period with your finances, or if you have been overly dependent on someone else's resources. Persephone in Taurus marks the moment you draw a line. It's kind of like drawing a line in the sand. So you start building your own savings, you start securing your own income, your own future, and realizing that material independence is the ultimate key to your peace of mind. Because Taurus rules the physical body and the earth. So I think Persephone's journey here is very therapeutic. If you have been living in your head or dealing with nervous system burnout, this transit brings you back down to earth. So you find healing through tangible things like cooking, spending time in nature, establishing a physical routine, a certain type of restorative comfort. I think the takeaway for Persephone here is that ultimate security comes from the foundations you build for yourself. And you don't need to ask for permission to protect your energy, your time, your resources. So we can really use this period of time to check our bank account and our healthier habits as well. Now, on 6th of June, we've got asteroid Lilith entering the sign of Gemini. So I'm again going to go back to the asteroid lists so that you can see what is happening. Asteroid Lilith's number is 1181. Not to mix it up with other Liliths, okay? Because we have got three or four types of Lilith depending on what astrologers you talk to. So you can see that the Lilith is here. And then when we start moving a little bit forward, Lilith goes about 3-4 degrees actually a week. So therefore, it tends to spend approximately about 6 weeks in a sign. And asteroid Lilith will not turn retrograde in the sign of Gemini. So therefore, it's going to be changing sign around 2nd or 3rd of August. Well, 3rd of August to be precise. What does Lilith shows us? Raw passion, personal autonomy, confronting taboos, refusing to be silenced or controlled by others. So it's very much about verbal gear. It feels like it. It feels like that it's a raw, unfiltered urge for autonomy and to kind of like speak up. Lilith is the part of the psyche that refuses to compromise its truth for social acceptance. And it shows where we break taboos or push back against censorship. So Gemini is a sign of information, words, and communication. It flips the switch on how we handle our thoughts and speech. It's a talk, but it's not a polite one. Lilith in Gemini is about using words as a tool for liberations. It awakens a collective urge to expose hidden facts, speak out against intellectual manipulation, and claim absolute independence over how we think and how we express ourselves. So you might have been keeping quiet, in specific situations just to avoid rocking the boat. And this shift brings a sudden surge of unapologetic truth telling. And the people around you um, can get shocked. And you are feeling very compelled to call things exactly as they are, even if it's uncomfortable for others. Lilith rebels against being told how to think or what sources to trust or how to write and speak and all this type of stuff. So you might find yourself questioning standard narratives or researching taboo and unconventional topics or updating your content to focus on ideas that feel deeply authentic rather than safe. I think it's excellent placement for writers and creators who want to break boundaries with their messages. And Lilith might be exposing a lot of gossips and double standards here as well. Gemini rules the twins, so it can sometimes carry the two-faced or the duplicitous type of energy when under stress. So this Lilith is refusing any type of double standards and manipulative communication or any type of gossips that she might be part of, because she's going to bring them to light. It's like having zero tolerance for intellectual games. It somehow teaches you that your voice is your power, or you have been playing small intellectually. This is inviting you to speak up. And last but not least, we are on 7th of June when we are wrapping up the week with Mercury and Vesta square. So Mercury is still, of course, in the sign of Cancer, and Vesta is in Aries. Now, Vesta is about dedication, tending the inner fire. And it's about fierce independence, absolute focus on my own goals. Now, Mercury rules our immediate focus, our thoughts and conversations. So Mercury in Cancer wants us to look inward, check on our loved ones, protecting our peace, protecting our family members. But Vesta is the asteroid of sacred focus, devotion, and internal flame. We keep burning for our work or personal destiny. So the problem is that this position doesn't want to compromise. It wants to pour all its energy into that singular project or a personal goal. So they are in a square off, right? So it's a conflict between your domestic emotional life and your professional or your personal mission. It's like you're trying to focus on a let's say a writing project or a building project, writing assignment, a personal goal. However, domestic obligations, family members, or just some emotional matters keep interrupting you, and you feel torn between wanting to be supportive and loving and wanting to lock the office door and scream, like, leave me alone so I can work, I can concentrate, I can hear my own thoughts. And maybe someone close to you might speak from a place of emotional need, but because the other person is completely consumed by their own independent drive and vision, the response comes across as cold, dismissive, or kind of self-absorbed. It's like you're trying to share an emotions of yours, and then someone is keep talking about the me part. Oh yeah, I've done the same 10 years ago. Oh yeah, sure, I've gone through that one myself, not a biggie. So you can feel emotionally undermined. This could actually talk to you about mental burnout because of split focus as well. This is not the aspect of multitasking. Maybe you are trying to multitask because you want to be mentally escaping from something, while Vesta in Aries is trying to launch something independent. So, guys, this is the weekly energy pattern. As you can see, we've got quite a lot going on in the very first week of June. I hope it helps. Please leave a comment. Comments are always super useful because it helps me reach a wider audience. And don't forget to hit the subscribe and the like button or the notification bell so that you don't miss my fantastic videos. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next forecast. Now let's go on breaking down it for the 12 signs, but each sign separate video. Bye for now.